Well, good afternoon, ENTV today. Happy almost Thanksgiving. It feels like it is already. People are already flying everywhere and driving everywhere. Kids are off school tomorrow. Some kids are off school today. So just exciting holiday coming up. Hope you are all very safe and sound and all of that. This is the Rise to Excellence with Dr. Paul Kellogg show. We're just getting this started. And I'm telling you, I said this last time I interviewed, so I can't think of a better person to help me rocket this thing out than the excellent Cindy Gould herself, calling in from the West Coast. She's just an amazing founder of the Victory Network. She has her own TV show on the Spanglish Network called Create Your Victorious Life. It has 4.5 million viewers. She is a peak performance coach, a joy catalyst, and the most important thing of all, the most important title. She's an amazing mama bear and grandmama bear. So let's welcome Cindy Gould. We're going to have a fabulous conversation today. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here with you. I want to say I am so excited to be here with the phenomenal and the most excellent Paul Kellogg. So thank you for having me.
There we go. Boy, that back rub felt really good on me. I don't know about you. That's really great. Yeah, so let's talk, Cindy, a little bit about I've started out these shows with let's talk about excellence. What is it to you? What does it mean to you? What does it feel like when that excellence energy is happening in your victorious life? And any example of something that's excellent that maybe outside the box people don't normally acknowledge or think of? Talk to
Yeah,
me.
you know what's interesting is that you've heard that phrase, the way you do one thing is the way you do all things, right? And people have heard me in the different things in ENTV in the past say that I really feel like I hit the parent lotto. My hallucination is that your children feel the same way too, of you and Susan. And it was because one of the things is I was taught excellence in our home. Like even doing our chores, even doing little things, even from when my parents taught me how to tie my shoes or brush my teeth or, all those little things because it all stacks on top of each other. But for me, excellence is really it's victory, it does create and sustain victory and joy in my life. And it saves so much time when you do it the right way from the beginning. And I will go to something very simple. My mom, she had this beautiful way of teaching. She still does. I'm so grateful she's still here. And one of the things was even when you create a meal, you make it yummy and you make it pretty. And that's the way, even, the sloppiest burger is so beautiful. And there's an excellence about that, right? And it's because you and I both talk frequency and energy. Excellence is literally a place you plug in to. It's a frequency, it's a hum, and it's the way that you show up. It's the way that you do things. And not to be too ethereal about it, but it's even the way you can even wear ripped jeans in an excellent manner, right? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you're sharing from that point of view because every time we talk about this in the shows that I've done so far, new things come to me. And I know one of the things that I was sharing with my guest on the last show is that excellence is not a product or an end result. It's a journey. It's a being. It's a process. It's a progression. And I know that for me, excellence feels like I'm present. I'm here. I'm in the moment. I'm connected. And I was reminded as you were sharing, and I forgot this until just now, shared it over the years. But when I grew up, my grandma was an award-winning bread maker. She would go to
Oh,
the county fairs, and if Catherine Kellogg was entering, people would find out ahead of time. And half the time, they wouldn't even enter because they knew. And she would make us these little loaves, baby loaves of bread for ourselves, and we'd come home in the afternoon, and that smell through the house. was to die for. And
Yep.
she just did things in a way so patient, so calm, so relaxed. And it was just this feeling of excellence. And it reminded me, and Susan and I have talked about this too, my spouse and partner Susan, is we grew up with that energy of excellence. People doing their very best, giving it their all. And so I think that's a piece of it. I was reminded earlier when I was thinking about this, an example for me of excellence is I went down to a conference center that I'm a part of and helped maintain it, and got the tractor started. It was totally cold. You know, we were wondering if this old tractor from the 1940s that was refurbished would even start. It started right up. We hooked it up to the flatbed. We were going tooling around, picking up wood and getting ready for fireplaces, and it just had this feeling of maintenance. There was an
Yeah.
energy of maintenance. We maintained that tractor. We were organizing things. And I think that's also a piece of what excellence is about, is when I maintain my energy, that is an energy of excellence. Even if I'm going to do it better tomorrow, it's an energy of excellence. Any thoughts stimulate
Uh,
to you on that,
Yes.
Cindy?
So
Yeah.
many. So you took me right back to the pucker point. I used to come home from school, we did as children, and there were seven of us. And my mother even ground her own wheat. And we would walk, we couldn't wait to get home from school to see what yummy goodie we would have. It was homemade bread, fresh out of the oven with butter, like not margarine. That was like never to this day, none of us Gould children have margarine. We all have real butter and with honey and just that you already know, like it's even falling off the bread and you're like having to wash your hands. So yum. So what that when you were talking about that, I thought, here's what I know about excellence. And those of you that are parents that watch now or in the future, your children pay attention. Like that I paid attention to the care that she took. Like you used the word patience with your grandmother and the patience that it took and the fact that she was present just like you were to give you that present. You know what I mean? Because it
Yeah.
gift in it and the other words that came up for me were consistency and commitment
Yeah.
with the maintenance. And one of the things that I love is so as you were talking, I remember in our shop as a child, and golly, I had to be like 6 or 7. And I remember one day my dad was outside and he created this super cool, with 7 kids, you have Gerber jars, right? With the babies, as you know from having your babies. And he made this super cool thing that he put on the wall with those and those that board that had like holes in it that you could hook stuff
Yeah.
into.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he glued or however he affixed the lids to the Gerber jars and then he turned them in so they were out like this way. And inside there were like nuts and bolts and screws and everything. And it was a beautiful thing he made out of just stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, even as a child, and as you were talking, this is what I thought about. Wow, that's so cool. And now as a grown-up, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how excellent that was. Like
Yeah.
he this beautiful thing that was super cool, that was useful and effective and efficient, but it was done with excellence. And it's the same thing as you say, even with, I can totally see people, oh gosh, Mary's doing it. I'm not making bread then, because it's like, no way. I'm not, it's not even worth it, right? But it's what you said, present, connected, consistency, commitment, maintenance. Excellence also requires maintenance. When
Yeah.
you live an excellent life, you take care of your stuff. You take care of your relationships. You take care of your business, your finances, all the things, right?
Yeah. So, Cindy, but let's talk a little bit about you've had an illustrious career, numerous different entrepreneurial ventures. You can chat about that. I have too. What is it that you think sustains an excellent energy, even if there's challenges or if there's troubles or outright traumas sometimes? And in the midst of the chaotic world sometimes that we feel and so on, how do you keep the focus with that has the underpinning of excellence to it? And maybe we can give some hints to people out there listening that are aspiring to go to the next level.
Well, one of the things the first thing that came to mind is my faith, obviously,
Yeah.
and well, for you, it's the same thing with your faith. And, you know, I have a constant running dialogue, as I know some of the folks in ENTV would say with Gus. For me, it's
Yeah.
just with God. I have a constant
Yeah.
running dialogue that, and it keeps me, you can't be in that presence and not maintain excellence. Like you can start out without excellence, but if you have that dialogue going, you're leveling up no matter what, because to maintain that frequency, I would say that's a big part of it. And the other thing is really, it's a decision.
Yeah.
I decided, and my decision is a commitment and it's a resolve. Like I will show up and it's going to be this, and so I've encoded my brain, I've hardwired my brain, because we know that the neurons that fire together wire together. So I've hardwired my brain to not accept anything except excellence, and to the point where now this is funny and not funny, but funny. So years ago, years and years and years ago, because my granddaughter is now 22, she'll be 22 in a few weeks. When she was a baby, we didn't want her to be in daycare, so I took her to work with me, and I ran a company, so like I could say what I wanted to do. So I would take her with me to meetings and little things, and she's adorable, beautiful little Hawaiian baby. So, she always helped me make the sale because she was sitting there with me, right? So
Right.
I had a meeting with the mayor of our city that I lived in at the time. And I was sitting in his office, and his wife was an educator. So he was stoked. I didn't say, I'm bringing, my granddaughter with me. I just showed up with her little car seat and everything. Well, she's sitting there, and and this is what's so funny, as he's gooing and, playing with her and doing the thing, his desk was a mess. And it's funny because I'm sure it was organized chaos for him, as if you've ever had piles on your desk and Well, I sat there unbeknownst to myself, and then all of a sudden I'm like, what are you doing? And I literally organized his whole desk while we were talking, like I was being slick, like I put the stapler a certain way and just all that stuff, right? And then he says to me, because we were friends, he's like, okay, are you done? I said, I don't know. What do you think, John? But it was like funny because later on I heard that he started keeping his desk, in a way, and his wife was stoked. Well, and so was his assistant, his EA. But what's funny is when you do actually have that, you get curious, not critical, but curious about the things around you and how to make everything align with excellence, right? Because I was
Beautiful.
hardwired for that. I don't know. What do you think?
It's like what I hear you saying is like it becomes a way of living. It's a lifestyle. This is who I am, and I'm expressing that, so first of all, my takeaway from what you're talking about is a lot of need to just accept myself here. Be myself. I mean, I'm going to get better tomorrow, and there's no point in worrying about the past or feeling guilty about it. I can't change that anyway. So just being
Yeah.
here, and then the top thing that I also totally buy into is that I'm not alone in all this. So whatever a person calls that higher power, or higher source of inspiration, however someone connects to it, it's engaging that. It's invoking however you do that, so that you can feel like that there's more empowerment there than just trying to trudge through the jungle on my own. So, that's a piece of it. And the other thing that came to me too, as you were talking about, there's a certain piece of just perseverance as I continue to go forward no matter what. No matter
Right.
what I'm carrying, no matter what, just keep stepping forward. And I was, again, in these conversations, I always remember things that I haven't thought about forever. But I was on a lecture tour when I was a young man. And it really was growing in all that. And I was in Evansville, Indiana, and I had this TV show and this newspaper interview lined up. And there was something that preempted both things. So here I am. I've got this meeting room scheduled, which is going to cost me money. I'm in a hotel room, which is costing me money. And I have no way to give the lecture, which is the way that the income, the one-on-ones would happen and so on. So you know what? I'm here. I'm just going to find out if there's anybody in the city to contact. And I got out the phone book, which at that time was a big giant yellow pages, and I started looking up things. I started looking up spiritual associations, this and that. And finally, I found this church that was in Evansville that I grew up in, the Unity Church. And so I
Oh,
called him up. I called up the minister and I told him about my mother being a minister, and here I am. And I was in town to do this. And do you know anybody that might be interested? And he said, why don't you come to the church and I'll give you a few minutes at the podium to announce the programs you're doing. And by the way, if you want to do your programs, you can do them here. So it's just like this. I call them white angels. They just suddenly show up in your life. And bottom line is, I ended up being able to do that. I had like 15 people at the lecture. Maybe that didn't seem like a lot, but for that opportunity it was 15 people came to this workshop. All 15 got these one-on-one sessions I was offering. They started an ongoing class that continued to meet after I left, and it was just like this beautiful gem in the midst of adversity, and just not giving up, going for what are the solutions rather than what's the problem. And I think that's a big part of it. And if you could speak to that,
yeah.
being solution oriented rather than problem oriented.
Yes, 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 and yes. And really quickly back to the thing with my mayor,
Yeah.
who was mayor then. It's funny because from that, because there's a fine line in this, from that situation, I actually learned something about myself. This was like maybe 20, well, how old is Aaliyah? So she's 22. So like 20 years ago, about the difference between excellence and perfectionism, right? Because there's that fine line. And I actually looked at that as, okay, Cindy, what's up with you? And flipped it into just flowing in a vein of excellence versus that. So now let me go to your question. Well, one of the things that came up when you were talking about that being solution oriented, but you pivoted. And the thing with which is so important with being solution oriented is when you walk into a situation, and yes, you want to magnetize the results that you want and all of those things. Yes. And maybe not how you get there, though, right? Because what you did is you pivoted and then you ended up with 15 amazing potential people that you could sow into their lives and impact and influence, which the energy exchange would not just be the love you would get back from them, but also money and resources in your pocket, right? Which is why you were there. And you looked for solutions. Okay, I'm in this situation now. So what now what? Why am I here? I have a process where I literally just say, okay, God, what is it that you're trying to develop in me right now?
Yeah.
Right? What is it that we need to perfect in myself, basically, and increase in myself? How do I deepen my capacity to love? Because I look at everything as an opportunity to bring love and joy and light. So how do I do that and grow and learn and get to serve in that process, which is exactly what you did. And the best way to do that is okay, show me my options. And I'm going to tell everybody that's listening now, and I know you have your own process as well. When you can get in here in your heart and get out of your head, because your head will back you up, but your heart has your answers. Like that scripture, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. There's a physical brain. Go look it up on the Heart Math Institute if
Yeah.
you don't know, or
Yeah.
Google it.
Yeah.
But there's a physical brain in your heart. And so where you have answers. And so if you get into your heart and say, okay, what are my options here? And, this is the outcome I'd love to see. What am I missing? What's my blind spot? And how do I pivot? How do I pivot to create that outcome? And then you're looking for fun solutions. And I always kind of throw in for myself, and how do I do it where I can have joy and have fun? I don't want it to be this, experience. I want it to be a cool, fun experience, which you bring. I know from just spending time with you and the other Kellogg's, Sandra and Susan, but you bring this joy and this fun, but you come with music, and so your life has a melody to it. So you bring that melodic joy with you. And I would suggest that to anybody who's watching is when you look for solutions, look for the joyful ones, because we can always recreate pain and garbage. I mean, yeah, but let's just go for the fun. At least that's my idea.
And if there's a challenge, it's going to be a little bit less of a heaviness as you go through that challenge. You know, one of the things that you shared there is my mentor used to share, seek opportunity for your own benefit. Now, the energy of that is that's not selfish, because when you're seeking opportunity, you're already giving out, you're already sharing, but the old law of cause and effect? What's the return coming? And that could be abundance, it could be money, but also just that energy of, I want to grow, I want to learn, I want to go to the next plateau of excellence
Yes.
tomorrow, all those kinds of things. And I think that that's invaluable, because so many people out there run their life without the clear why. They're involved in things because of the outside voices or the programming or training that they should do this or should do that, rather than, as you're sharing, coming from what is my real passion from within.
Yes.
I said this on the last one, and I love this quote because it's so powerful. Einstein said, who everybody thinks is an intellectual, very intellectual, right? He's a master scientist, right? He's a very feeling guy. He said, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. The rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant, but has forgotten the gift. And
Mm.
so that intuitive or heart side, that's what I call it, that whole subconscious or unspoken facts and so on, that can be a huge guiding force to help us to keep that feeling of joyful excellence going, right?
I love that. I'm going to have to write that quote down. I love that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. I think that, another thing that's really important is to open yourself up to being resourceful. Instead of looking at your limitations that you've put there, honestly, look at the fact that you have an infinite world of infinite possibilities with infinite solutions, with infinite help and resources, like you said, white angels that will come to your beck and call, literally. So will the negative ones too. So be careful with what you speak to and what you think, because as you think, so you feel, as you feel, so you do, as you do, so you have. So look at that and look at, okay, well, what resources do I have that I'm not seeing? When you ask yourself, the quality of your questions, obviously, as we know, will be the quality of your life. So when you ask yourself that, wait and listen for the answer. Don't ask from here, because you'll be surprised. All of a sudden, you're going to get a phone call. You're going to bump into somebody in a parking lot. You're going to, watch a podcast or, a TV show or something that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, and it will instantly open all these downloads that you didn't have a conscious remembrance, right? That they were already tucked away, ready for you to access.
Yeah, that's beautiful. How would you, in your journey, Cindy? So let's take the Create Your Victorious Life podcast. When did you start that? I'm going to go on a little journey here, if you would. When did you start that? What was it like to start that? What were the things that challenged the excellence in general? Um, and now, having looked at the progress of that, going to 4.5 million viewers, how do you share the journey of excellence in all that from the beginning to where you are now?
Hmm. So I started it, I would say I was on somebody else's show.
Okay.
And in that show, at the end, the producer, Eduardo, he actually said, hey, I think you'd be great with your own show. You want one? I'm like, okay. I just said I was all in. So, and that was a year and a half ago, almost a year and a half ago. And you know, I show up and here's what is important for me is my show, and I'm excited because you're going to be on my show in a few weeks, so I can't wait. And it's really about having people come on and I ask, how have you created victory in your life? It's really a showcase about, in order to create victory, then you had to have opportunities, right? That for you to overcome certain things to be victorious in, correct? And so a lot of people talk about their trauma to triumph. There's a lot, the majority of everybody who comes on acknowledges God in their life in some form or fashion, the way that it happens, and I would say for me, my biggest thing is connection. It's really connecting with your heart and with your spirit to give you the freedom to be authentic. Because the most important thing to me is that I get to create a space for you to sparkle and shine and to share what is really on your heart. So the world, whoever listens, I know they were meant to hear it. If they listen today, if they listen in a year or 2 years, they find it on my YouTube, whatever it is, then I know that, okay, this is when they were supposed to anchor that message into their soul and into their spirit. And so for me, that I also spend time, like I don't advertise. I mean, I post it on my Facebook, on my socials once a
Yeah.
week. The network advertises. I don't really, but I spend time in my heart inviting people from my heart in, not like on the phone, but literally. And I know, again, for some of you that might, I don't mean woo woo, airy fairy. That's not it. It's literally, we're all connected. It's like just electrical grids,
Yeah.
And so I spend time making sure that my grid is as clear as possible so that whatever I send out, people catch. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Is there particular, and the reason why I'm asking this is to give some hope and inspiration to people, is what have you found over the years maybe was your greatest challenge to that, to maintain that connection, to keep here and so on? Any
Yeah.
particular thing that stood out that you've learned from?
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, I would say grief, trauma,
Okay.
sadness, sorrow, the usual cohorts, fear. Oh my goodness, fear, anxiety. All of those things are meant to distract us and hijack us, in my opinion, from our true purpose. It's not hard. It's like all we have to do is get a little bit distracted this way, and we're not going this way anymore, right?
Yeah.
So I recognize that. I feel it in my body. Like those of you that are, again, watching like Paul yourself, like whenever you felt anxiety or anxiousness, you feel it, like your body feels it.
Sure.
That's where I jump in with myself. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling this. What? Like, and figure out whatever I need to get back on the highway, on my right path. And those are the things that I would say, like grief. And it isn't that you shouldn't grieve, like those of you that have had loss in your life or anything. It's just don't stay stuck there.
Yeah.
Right. And so I have a process, we call it the stop technique, and I mean, I'm
Mhm.
sure you're familiar with it. But basically you feel bad on purpose, you feel good after, you hijack that feeling, you stop feeling bad. You can do this before something bad happens so that you've already encoded in yourself a way to not stay stuck. So you feel bad on purpose, you feel good, and then you celebrate. The celebrate's important because it anchors it in. So if you have that a scary feeling later on, feel it on purpose. Go back to it, revisit it. Okay, I feel right now. Instantly take it out, create what's called a scotoma. So I would yell the word stop. I change my physiology. I jump up, I do whatever, and I fill it with something resourceful and positive. And then I celebrate. Good job, Cindy. And that may sound goofy to you. Trust me, it works. Try it. Prove it wrong.
You
Because
change.
you'll prove it right.
You're
Right?
changing the energy. You're getting up and doing
100%.
something. It was
100%.
great for me to go down to the conference center yesterday because I've been doing all these Zoom things and it's getting a little more inactive, and so on. And I told my friend down there who was I was working with, it's just great to get out here. It was great to get cold. It was great to have the cold wind in my face. Because it just shifted things. It got me back into a
Yeah.
physical vitality as well as the spiritual vitality. So yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. I think for me, one of the things that has become more excellent for me is just my awareness and attitude and sense of respect for all the myriad of service providers that I met out there in this network and Empowered Soul Network and watching what you do and our other colleagues. There is because I was so focused on my offering and what I was doing with my tours, I was not aware of as much of the things that are out there. And a couple of times I could even feel judgmental because of just the way they were going about it. Well, that's not really where I want to do it. But yet here they were doing their thing. And so to honor and value that has been a great lesson of rising up and just creating more and more space. That's what the Victor Network is all about. That's what this is all about, is creating more space for people to shine and grow. And as I do that, I've learned something today. I love to turn music on and get up and dance a little bit, to change that energy. So,
Right.
so the message here, I think, guys, if you're taking it away, get up, do something. Change the energy, shift it, move it. Find something that you can be excellent about. Maybe it's just making yourself a smoothie, for lunch instead of going out to eat. And maybe whatever it is, it's just having that proactive, positive vibration. I want to do something that feels good.
100%. You know what I love too about what you're saying too is it is about changing physiology, and it's also, I would say one of the biggest things with excellence, and a lot of people would not connect this dot, and I'll use myself as a quick example.
Yeah,
Years ago, not too long ago, but in my 40s, I found myself pregnant, and I was 6 months pregnant and lost our son, and I miscarried. And from that moment on, and I already had a grandchild, so it was like I had two grandchildren. So it was like it was a surprise. But from that moment on, I didn't realize that because I just kept moving forward, but I started gaining weight. Now I didn't realize that I was still stuck. I looked at myself as I still do my work, I still do my thing. I didn't realize that parts of me were stuck. So when I finally realized it, my son Nicholas said to me, "Well, Mom, that's just sad fat." I'm like, "Wait, what?" Is it right? But he wasn't wrong. And so as soon as I started actually acknowledging that and having forgiveness for different things that were stuck in there from myself or others, not like I had to forgive anybody for the miscarriage, but you know what I mean.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but but as soon as I did that, I released 130 pounds. Now,
There, wow.
yeah, and I've kept it off. Well, and I did some other things. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
like I did the things and to make it happen. However, I say that because a lot of times you don't connect that dot to your excellence, right? Or to your being able to do that. You just keep rolling with it. And
that's right.
sometimes, yeah, pay attention to those things and really acknowledge where you're at and love the heck out of yourself. Like, just like, oh my gosh, look at us. Like you and I, we would have never connected. I can't wait till we get to see each other in person. But had it not been for Amos and being in his Amos sphere, as I say, in ENTB or, and all of those things, and the way that we iron sharpens iron, again, I get to be with the excellent Paul Kellogg today. What a blessing. And being able to sharpen my own iron and being reminded about certain things in my life and even the bread thing and all of that and my dad's cool little stuff. It just the way that those things were stacked and strategically put in my life to help me to be at this point right now, you
That's
know?
beautiful. I mean, I think as we begin to wrap it up here, Cindy, that I think that one of the big messages or takeaways that I feel from this conversation is the whole take time for self-awareness. What am I feeling? What do I want? What's my vision? And why do I want that? Susan came home the other day with her. I love her. She comes home with her teaching stories with all the elementary school kids. And she was telling me about this little kid who very, very communicative and overall pretty positive guy. And I can't remember his name, Marcus, whatever it was. And she says, "Marcus, how you doing today?" And he goes, "Mrs. K, my joy is experiencing depression." But the point is, he was aware of that. He
I
was
know.
defining that for himself. And here's this little third grader, you know, and imagine that kind of ability to just honestly state this,
Yep.
you know, and feel it and be aware of it. And boy, if all of us would do that, a whole lot more problems would get solved in the world, right?
Yeah, so my little grandson, you just reminded me of Benjamin, and I won't go into the whole story, but like with his dad and everything. So here's the other day, he's just this adorable little boogie, and he's just what 6 years old, and he had made a statement about something, and then he says to me, "Guams," and I don't ever want him to stop saying "Guams." Don't say it correctly. Say "Guams" always. But and he says to me, "Uh-oh, here come the big tears. They're not the little ones, they're the big ones." Okay. And he's giving me a play-by-play. Okay, I'm sad. So I'm gonna cry for a minute and then I'll be fine. And just give me a hug. And I'm like, perfect child,
Wow.
right? I just thought, what a beautiful acknowledgement of each uh, the play-by-play, right?
Yeah.
And your point, I mean, what a perfect place to end on. The awareness and is just fabulous. So thank you for bringing that up.
I mean, how can how can I claim anything but excellence if I'm the only one of me in the universe that there is? You know, just because an acorn's not an oak tree doesn't mean the acorn's bad. You know, it's an oak tree in the making. So here we are, just excellent selves, going to be excellent more tomorrow, going to figure stuff out more. So, wow, there we go. Hey, Cindy, tell us about things where people can connect with you, anything you've got coming up that people need to know about. We'll put that in the comments of the show too.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Victory Network, and it just under groups in Facebook, the Victory Network. So Paul and I have both been a part of the Catapult program, and so that's why we get to do the things that we're doing with our groups. And thank you, Amos. And Create Your Victorious Life. It's seen on Zingo TV, through Roku channel, Spanglish World Network on Fridays at 11 Pacific. Also, I do have some really fun things coming up, so stay tuned in the Victory Network for that, as well as I do have a women's group coming up for the new year, which is going to be fun, the Unstoppable Women that get to join in. So please pay attention for that, and thank you so much, Paul. This has really been fun.
This was so much fun. Absolutely. Can't wait to do more, Cindy. And for us, Empowered Soul Network, ESN is the call letters of the Facebook group there. Sandra and Susan and I are continuing to host live interviews. Yeah, for both of us, the Victory Network and Empowered Soul Network. If you want to be interviewed in that to tell your story, showcase who you are and what you do, we actually don't talk that much. We just interview. We just ask those questions, and Cindy will have that basic provocative question for you to dive into about your victorious life and how you do it. So, great conversations that we have. I'm going to continue to do these shows more and more. And also, Sandra and I've got some master classes coming up, some special meet and greets coming up that we're going to be doing. So, again, just stay tuned. Stay tuned to ENTV today, and you'll hear about all the great things happening. I think, Cindy, we even have a special fun 12 days of Christmas in ENTV today, where some of us are going to be giving away special things that if you watch us, you get to choose. We get to choose. So we're just going to have so much fun over the holidays to help you keep alive and keep your excellent self going with all you, your family, friends, and colleagues, you name it. Let's be excellent. Cindy, thank you so much. Love and
Thank you.
light to you, my dear.
Have a night to you as well. Thanks. Bye,
Stick
everyone.
around for a minute, Cindy. We'll
I
wrap
will.
up.
Thanks.